Hi, my name is Phil Schultz, and it's a nice day today. Little chilly, almost a nice day for ice fishing, but instead I'd like to speak with you about urban vehicles. And they are 20 horsepower, slow-moving vehicles, made especially for the city. Anyway, I'm going to speak with letters because I get rattled and I can't speak right, and I'm 65 years old and my memory's not so good. But anyway, this is called Tips for the Future, and it's from Monday, May 19th, 2008. Anyway, tips for the future. Perhaps you'll permit me to suggest to potential buyers of NEVs, neighborhood electric vehicles, the following. 1. First, try driving the posted speed limits with your present vehicle, if you have one. Second, yield the left of way, pull over to the right when traffic is close behind you, wherever possible. Watch your rear view mirror closely, but don't forget about going forward in corners and driveways. 3. Buy a removable, slow-moving vehicle triangle and put it on the back of your car to warn others that you're going to drive slower. If you're going to continue as normal, just remove the triangle and do not use it when speeding. And this is an example. It's a spade-mounted triangle. You don't have to use it if you don't want to try driving urban vehicle. Incidentally, I have been writing to General Motors for over 20 years trying to get urban vehicles developed and/or 20 horsepower adapter engine setups built for existing vehicles, like the 1993 GMC Safari that's sitting here. I estimate the rough cost of a factory adapter engine setup installed, and with the hoods on present cars lately, it might raise the cost, and because things are so hard to get at on a modern engine, for better mileage would only be about 10 to 20% of the cost of a new vehicle. And it may be able to let people like me get through now before we move on to next. Letter ends, good luck. This next letter is from May 22nd, 2010, and it goes, automobile manufacturers are free to equip vehicles offered to the public with power plants, enabling many of the vehicles to far surpass highway speed limits. Autos built for the city are non-existent. Our local and state governments now have legislation requiring drivers to wear seat belts. Owners of cars no longer have the freedom to drive without wearing seat belts, and if caught, have to pay stiff fines for not wearing them and for speeding and for not having liability insurance. There seems to be some sort of major conflict between automotive speed capability and driver-passenger safety. Drivers are carrying the major burden of responsibility and cost, while the car makers have no responsibility nor mandate to produce slower and safer cars with great economy. The automakers are the ones who should be ticketed for each car made too fast for safety. Henry Ford's original 1909 Model T redone. That's enough for me. Do I really need 300 horsepower to get to the grocery store? Come on, the airbags are really screaming nowadays. That was published in the Racine Journal-Times on May 27, 2010. And here's another one from February 25th, 2010. Suppose I told you we were fighting a war against ourselves here in the U.S. and that in 2007 there were 41,000 plus fatalities, and in 2008 there were 37,000 plus deaths of children, women, and adults, and men of all ages. Quite gruesome, don't you think? We're losing the battle with ourselves. In actuality, these are the approximate numbers of traffic fatalities for those years, but not listed are the injured and or permanently disabled survivors of those crashes and accidents. This says to me that driving our present vehicles is actually quite a dangerous and costly proposition. It also makes me wonder what the true human value of slower moving urban vehicles might be in our jaded, wasteful, speed-crazy society. That letter was published March 1, 2010. And then here's something from December 7th, 2011. This was published in the journal Sentinel. I don't have the exact date, but it was in there before Christmas of 2011. As an avid urban vehicle development and speed limit or less driving advocate, I have two suggestions for local drivers. First, remove your blinding blue tone headlights to the same scrap pile that outlawed studded snow tires ended up in a few years ago. Second, give up your streamlined auto speed and death and give our towns and cities rest. Both of these ideas would be wonderfully considerate New Year's resolutions. Season's greetings and best wishes, and also for 2012. There's a little poem here. First, a little statement. The urban vehicle will not need headlights as bright as a road car's. An urban vehicle is different from a road car. It travels slower. Anyway, this poem is a sonnet. It's called Ode to the Automobile, O-W-E-D. Give up the auto's speed and death and give our towns and cities rest. Streamline's really not success. Life's a better interest. It's hard get in or even out, and really that is not profound. So tightly is our transport wound, if it could talk, a whale would sound. Too often it has wildly sped, careening forward to its end. Mayhem many times been found for all the riders tightly bound. The lucky still to places get, for others injury screams loud. That poem was written December 7th, 2011. And here's a letter. It was reconstructed, or it was modified on January 19, 2012. It's to Mr. Mark McKean, the manager of GM, U.S. Talent Acquisition. And there's an address in Detroit, Michigan, if anybody's interested. And this is actually, my references to GM New Devices file number 230151 and Ford New Devices number 22089. And it says RE, patience is an urban vehicle virtue. Dear Mr. McKean, slower acceleration from stops, longer deceleration before braking. The underworked 4.3-liter V6 is averaging about 14 miles a gallon, is always carboned up, and the check engine light lighting up the dash with the least bit of speed over the posted speed limits, even though I drive the car in third instead of overdrive. This supposedly all-purpose GMC minivan is really not suitable for driving the city's speed limits. It basically is only good for highway driving on a consistent basis. At best, it is big enough to be a deterrent to overtaking drivers. In other words, this car is large enough to be a deterrent to drivers, which the small economy cars probably aren't, especially if they're driving slower. Over the last 6 years of urban vehicle simulation study, I have driven over 18,000 miles at slower speeds. The yearly tallies are graphed below. 2011, 3209. 2010, 2883, 2009, 3725, 2008, 2760, 2007, 3038, and 2006, 2812 miles, for a total of 18,426 years over the last 6 years. My reasons for the low yearly mileage amounts are because I can't afford the high price of gasoline and repairs. I try to use it sparingly, only when I'm carrying people and stuff or it's raining. I walk a lot locally. 18,000 miles driven with this car in the city with no accidents is a fairly good indicator of well-marked safety considerations. I'll continue the study as long as I can, and I'm continuing it till this day. And here's one, July 22nd of this year, 2012, to Mr. Mark McKean et al., GM Talent Acquisition, Detroit. Dear Mr. McKean, what? Still no plans nor actualization for modest, high mileage, 15 to 20 horsepower, 30 mile per hour, air-conditioned, heated, easy to get in and out of, non-streamlined, 4 to 5 passenger plus goods family urban vehicles. You have the audacity to say you are professional engineers, designers, and good businessmen and women. Meanwhile, the economy and environment are in hell. No food, no jobs, no money, no rain, plus heat, pollution, and waste, and no way around. I say you people can do better. Forget the Corvettes and big V6s and produce urban economy cars like I suggest above. I'd like to have one. I need a job and a way to get around town. Thanks. Sincerely. I'm 6'2". Do you supply shoehorns for the small, tiny economy cars? And then my little postscript is, they haven't written back from General Motors in quite a while. And anyway, I've got, quote, no response expected. Are you dead? And then here's a very recent letter to the editor from November 30th, 2012. And this is a crazy one. It is against the unwritten laws of the United States of America to actually drive the speed limits or a little less. I'll repeat that. It is against the unwritten laws, not the written laws, but the unwritten laws that cause us to speed. It's against the unwritten laws of the United States of America to actually drive the posted speed limits or a little less. And that was published November 28, 2012 in the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel under the heading, Against the Law? And then here's another one from August 23rd, 2012. Dear Kelly and all, even after about 30 years of writing to the car companies, watching the ads and gruesome news, and suggesting developing comfortable, easy to access, safer 25 to 30 mile per hour American family urban vehicles and optional 20 horsepower environmental emergency engine swap setups for existing vehicles, I still can't come up with one stupid idea for selling the idea to the automakers or the public. No response. I guess I'll never make salesmen. Then here's a little question for GM, which they never answered. What levels of manifold vacuum pressure will my proposed 18 to 20 horsepower gear reduction auto adapter engine need to develop to operate existing automatic transmission modulators? And then perhaps a nice name for the urban vehicle would be the Reflex, because with older people driving a car, the reflexes are often slow, and so they should be driving slower, and often many older people do. And then here's a more well, it's spiritual, but it's a spiritual letter. It's a letter to the editor of the Racine Journal-Times, September 25th, 2011. To Mr. Lovejoy at the Journal-Times, or whom this may concern. This is called a Disasters Kyrie, which is a religious name for a certain part of a religious service. The overwhelmingly devastating fires, tornadoes, earthquakes, floods, droughts, and hurricanes recently can be considered an act of an angry God, an uncontrollable nature, and or the fault of the world's people who have failed or could not listen to the predictions of its own scientists, prophets, and other researchers and take appropriate action to lessen these catastrophes. Lord have mercy. It is sad and tragic to see these events happening with the loss of life and property, coupled with the wars and the financial social breakdown of civilization. Christ have mercy. We must change and do better, or possibly the world's civilization's progeny, animals, insects, and plants may not survive. It is now up to all of us to do whatever we can to rebuild, modify, invent, restore, and stabilize the one world we all share, unless the forces of depression, inertia, rage, and disregard for all life overwhelm. If the latter is the case, or needed changes come too late, woe be to the world and continued life on the planet. Lord have mercy. Sincerely, Phil Schultz, Independent Urban Vehicle Simulation Test Driver and Advisor. That's a mouthful. Independent Urban Vehicle Simulation Test Driver and Advisor. Anyway, I thank you for your time, and I thank Car 25 for allowing me to use the video camera, and the City of Racine for providing this service that I could actually say these words. Thanks for your consideration. I hope we haven't bored you to tears. Have a good day.